What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm live stream. Tuesday night, I'm Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. We're wrapping up week 7 here, looking ahead to some lines in week 8. Craig, we had a pretty good week this week. We got back on the right side of 500 in the Super Contest. In the Golden Nugget, though, we finished 3-4. But I still feel like the picks were good. We just didn't turn out right in the end.
Yeah, it's much better than it. We actually were okay the week before that, but yeah, we had like a 1 week losing streak where some of the picks were completely sideways, and I think that of really between the 5 Super Contest picks and some of the extra ones, we definitely had a couple of stinkers this week in the NFL for sure, and we'll get to that.
What are you talking about, dude? The Jets were great.
Yeah, that was like wow. Yeah, that did not go well for us, and that was a really popular pick too, unsurprisingly. So. Yeah, I mean, we got the World Series going on tonight, so we'll do this live stream here from 8 to 8:30. We'll be back on Friday night, same time. I know we're excited about that. I mean, this is a great time. Love the World Series and want to see the outcome of this for sure. But in terms of football, this is the time of the week where you got to start taking a look at those lines, and we'll talk about that as you can start to take advantage now this time of the year with some of these college teams that aren't playing for anything and are going to start shutting some kids down, and injuries take hold. And injuries in college, you lose a quarterback or a running back or a couple senior defenders, that can completely change things around. In the NFL, as they say, I know it's cliche, but they say it's next man up. And we've seen that in a lot of situations. I mean, Mason Rudolph played pretty well so far for the Steelers. And then Hodges, the backup, he played pretty well too. Teddy Bridgewater has played well. Kyle Allen has played well. But you remove that in college, you get a kid who's never seen the field before outside of high school, and the results can be really unfavorable. And we're going to see that this week, especially Howard in Alabama or in Arkansas. But when Alabama plays Arkansas this week, of course, Tua Tagovailoa is not going to play, and then they have a bye week, and then we'll get that huge showdown against LSU coming up in a couple of weeks. But you got to start really paying attention to that. And before we get into this week's games, let's take a review real quick of last week's games.
Sure thing. Let's start off with the Golden Nugget. We went 2-2 with our college picks. Started off Minnesota minus 28.5 against Rutgers.
We just keep fading Rutgers, and it's working. And so we're going to, and here's a little preview for Friday night. We're going to do it again this Friday night. Rutgers has covered one game all year, the first game that they played in against UMass. They have not covered a game since. And I mean, this line this week, they play against Liberty, a non-Division I school, but arguably one of the best D2 schools out there, as Liberty has beaten some really good teams, including New Mexico. We used them a few weeks ago, and the line opened up around 4.5, 5, moved quickly to 6, then to 7, and now I saw some 7.5 this afternoon. I have a feeling by the time we do the live stream tomorrow, it could be 8. And, of course, those are not favorable numbers, but imagine that at home being that big of a favorite. But, Howard, Rutgers had 8 yards passing, I think, last week, up from 1 the week before that. So, yeah, that game was really never in doubt. Minnesota did get off to a little bit of a slow start, but what's happening with Rutgers is that their defense is bad, but it's not like ranked last in the country bad. It's like 5th to last in the country bad. So what they're doing is they're keeping the games within like 21 points at the half, and then of course the defense is going to get tired. I mean, any branch of football that's going to happen. When you're on the field the whole game, you're going to get tired, and then teams are rolling over them in the second half of the season. So I would expect Liberty to win and cover this number also, and this is the hottest bet going right now in college football. I believe it's 6 straight games of non-covering, and with huge lines, 28, 27, 26. So even though Liberty is not the optimal spot here for us, it's just an automatic fade at this point. Now, if it was 10 or something like that, I may have to take a second look at it. But within a touchdown, I think it's safe. But that was our first pick, and Minnesota just crushed them.
Yeah, destroyed them. The other one that we won in college, Navy minus 14. That one again, never in doubt.
Nope.
Navy opened up with a real early 14-0 lead. And then just kind of rolled through it there.
Yeah, so South Florida will have a new coach next year probably, as we talked about. They came off a good win against BYU, and then that was a really tough loss. In fact, in December, it'll be interesting. The Army-Navy game may be a really, I mean, it's always a competitive game, but it may be an exciting game too. Two really good offenses with these two schools. And of course, Army's had a really solid year outside of a couple disappointing losses. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. And yeah, the Navy just ran all over them.
So funny. I always go when the lines come out, I always immediately look at the academies and see where they're at. I'm like, oh, hey, look, Army 9.5-point favorites over San Jose State. Maybe have to take a look at that. So, all right. So Navy was a good pick, and then obviously again Minnesota was another great pick. The two that didn't turn out for us, one of them, well, they both kind of came down to the very end.
Yeah, they were both close.
They were both close. Ole Miss, we had them at 6.5.
Ole Miss was 7. Yeah, Ole Miss was 7. And it was 6 most of the week. Not only did they just miss it, Ole Miss was leading after the first quarter. They were leading after the second quarter. They were leading after the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, they just imploded. And late in the game, with only a couple minutes to go, Texas A&M had a choice on a very short play on a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. They could have went for it, ended the clock. The game would have ended there. We would have covered, but they decided to kick a field goal, and it went in. And so and Mississippi got the ball back. They really, I mean, they were just playing with themselves. They didn't have a chance at that point. Their quarterback was just getting crushed at the end of that game. In fact, the kid who we talked about last week, Plumlee, the kid who had rushed for 100 yards 4 games in a row, got hurt. And so he's out now for Mississippi, and it didn't go well for him. He can't really throw. He's more of a runner. But that was the right side. I mean, Mississippi was winning the entire, like 90% of that game, and so you just got to throw your arms up in the air. But I will say this, for those of you who are tailing us and are using all the bets we did say on the live stream, to make sure you get this at 7. So hopefully if there's any saving grace for you guys, if you did bet it, you got it at 7 and you pushed. You didn't lose. But for the contest purposes, we did lose.
Right. And then the other game that we lost, Texas Tech, we had them at +7. They were hanging with Baylor the entire time. They really were.
Baylor is the number 1 surprise of the college football season.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I mean,
but they didn't look good last week, and that was one of the things that we were talking about. Baylor just, I mean, they made it out in the other game.
They were an underdog, and they won outright. We got to start giving them credit. The coach for Baylor is the coach of the year right now in college football, and Matt Rule. I mean, they have a chance to play for the Big 12 championship. This was when Art Briles left with all the scandals that he had there, and the team was winning 2 games in 3 games. Rule left Temple, and he went there, and they keep becoming underdogs or even favorites. And the game was really close until the 4th, and then it got out of hand. But look, that's where you want to be late in the 3rd, and so at this point we have to start respecting Baylor. They're having a great year.
So 2-2 in the college games. The pro games for our games in the Golden Nugget. We had the Jaguars -3.5. I loved that game. I had no problem with that pick. I knew Leonard Fournette was going to rip them up, just kill the clock, and that's really what we ended up getting. Andy Dalton shoots himself in the foot at the end of pretty much. He really gave us that game,
like pretty, like it was really up in the air going into the 4th, and
I
then
wasn't that worried.
I mean, he threw 3 passes in a row that were picked. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen that 3. I mean, that's like Nathan Peterman style. Like 3 picks in a row, 1 for a pick 6. I don't know that we cover that game if not for the pick 6. I mean, Cincinnati came down at the end of the game. I mean, Cincinnati is the king of the garbage time right now, though, right? Like, I mean, they score in the last minute of every game in the NFL this season. So thank goodness
they are, but they aren't, because I mean, again, it's you look at their personnel. Listen, it's atrocious. The offensive line is atrocious. I was never concerned about that one. I mean, it was like 27-10 for the longest time.
No, they were up 10-9 going into the 4th. They were up.
Are you sure you're watching the same game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you watching the same game as me?
Absolutely. They were up.
All right, well, then.
They were up, and then Dalton threw 3 interceptions.
Are you sure?
I'm going to look.
I know that Dalton threw the 3 interceptions there. It was 10-9 going into the 4th. Look at that.
It was 10-9. Cincinnati was winning. You were never worried? I was worried.
I wasn't worried.
I was worried until he threw 3 picks. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember texting somebody else too, going, oh my gosh, 3 in a row.
I was probably more frustrated by the fact that the Raiders just got annihilated. They did, but I'll tell you right now that it was a 3-point game. Raiders had the ball, and Carr's running into the end zone, and
flips it over the pylon and it goes out of bounds. The Packers get it back. He throws the bomb to Scanling.
I think the second or the third time that Carr's done that.
Second time this year that's happened. What are these guys thinking with that? This happens too often. So, look, I'm not saying that we would have won, and I don't know if the Raiders would have covered. I mean, that was Rodgers' best game of his career, but that was a huge shift in momentum in that game. But look, we got to eat it. The bottom line is that Raiders are, to me, the most unpredictable team to pick.
You know what, though? I mean, I kind of feel like we should have known to avoid it because we were sitting there, like, I know hindsight's always 20/20, but we were sitting there and we were like, well, it's 5.5 in the Nugget. And it's 4.5 in the Supercon. Like the fact
maybe we should have I think in the one when we were talking and going over it, we probably should have pivoted away from the 4.5 and cut our losses at that point. And we would have went 4-1 had we done that in the Super Contest. But yeah, the Raiders was so we actually I think this is only the second time in the 7 weeks that we were below 500 with our picks in the NFL in the Golden Nugget. Second time in 7 weeks.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago and then this week. So the third pick in the NFL that we had in the Golden Nugget was
the Jets.
The Jets, yeah. Are we still allowed to be on the live stream after picking the Jets? I mean, Al and Rick, nobody's called us to say what are you guys doing? Nothing.
No, listen, you know what? I mean, again, you said yourself it was a popular pick. The Jets
very popular.
Listen, the Jets really, that was the worst I've ever seen. And listen, I sit there as a Jets fan even, and I never take them. And I said this on that live stream. I said I never take these guys because they're my team, and that leaves a horrible taste in my mouth. But I genuinely believe that they were a better team than that, and they've always played the Patriots closer. That was just. It was ridiculous. And then, Belichick and Brady smiling at penalties and laughing and having a great time. Sam Darnold all mic'd up saying stuff about seeing ghosts in the pocket. It was just everything about that game
so bad.
Was a terrible, a travesty.
I was at dinner and I wasn't watching because I was like, I'll catch the second half. And then I was with my friend and he's like, hey, guess what the score is? I'm like, what? 24-0. I'm like, oh, all right. That's it. And he's like, what do you mean? They could come back. I'm like, nope, right away. That's it. 24-0. There's no shot.
There's no coming back.
There's no shot. And look, the line looked fishy. Jets getting 10 at home Monday night. It did, but we were suckers. We got suckered in, and that's going to happen. We're going to get suckered in at times with the bets, and the Jets, no bueno.
No bueno. All right, so we used those 3 picks also in the Super Contest.
Yep.
So we needed a rally.
We were 1 and 2. We'd had good. The other 2 picks were good.
The other 2 picks were great. First one was the Niners. Not the Niners. We took the Redskins against the Niners.
Yeah, that was a solid pick from start to finish. The weather was horrible. Helped us out a lot. And look, San Francisco being a short favorite and a dog, they're going to perform all season long. But I would have big reservations about betting them as a big favorite in any game in the NFL this season. So. Look,
they just picked up Emmanuel Sanders in a trade. Now all of a sudden, you got to wonder. No.
So Washington that was clearly the right side there. It was nothing at the half, right? Yeah, it was nothing.
Yeah.
So
nothing at the half, and then it was 3-0 after the third. I thought they were going to end up getting a touchdown on their second possession in the after they kicked the field goal. They had a possession after that, and I was like, oh man, it was like a turnover from Washington. And it was on their side of the field, and San Francisco ended up just settling for the field goals.
Yeah. So 9-0, relatively easy win there, and then Minnesota just crushed Detroit. That was a great pick. That was really not close ever. Minnesota finally got a Minnesota pick right.
Fine. I've been on them all year.
I've been on them too, and losing the games that they lose.
You're still thinking back to last year.
No, this year. I think I loved them against the Bears. How did the Bears beat the Vikings?
Oh,
that happened.
That I have no idea.
That's the craziest stuff in the NFL. So, yeah, and then the leans after that I had in the other games actually came in too. So yeah, it was the NFL was a little bit better than college this week, but I still feel pretty good about the results overall.
All right. So let's talk about some of the lines that we're looking at for
Sure.
for this week. I sent you a couple of games that I was kind of eyeballing here. Let me see if I can pull them up, and let's see. A couple of them that we've talked about here. Now, I thought that Philly only getting 1.5. I thought that was kind of a weird line. I feel like it's a lot of people over, just exaggerating what went down on the Sunday night game. They did. They looked terrible against Dallas. They did. But I'm just not sold on Buffalo. And and I said this.
That's a good contrarian way to go.
Like we talked about this, with Buffalo and the point spread with them over Miami. And I said I didn't like it there. I didn't think that Buffalo was, a 17-point favorite. And it, so I look at this one here and I think that Philly, that looks a little suspicious to me. We talked San Francisco, Carolina, off a bye week, 5.5-point road dogs in San Francisco. I know it's a tough game. It's just something that I'm kind of looking at, and I'm feeling Carolina's 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games. We've been riding high on them.
Yeah, I like the under a little bit in this one. I don't think either team would score very much. It's dangerous once you get below 40-41. This one's at 41.5.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah. How about let's touch on Thursday night, by the way, before we go any further here. Redskins
at Washington?
Yeah. Got to do it, though. I mean, it's part of the equation.
Sure.
I mean, I wouldn't pick it, but...
No, I wouldn't either. 17 points?
You think Washington could cover that?
You know what, man? It's
points.
Detroit put up some serious points. I was surprised that Detroit put up the points that they did on Minnesota here.
Yeah, me too.
Can't discount the revenge game narrative. It goes for both quarterbacks. It's
right.
Not just Kirk Cousins against the Redskins. It's now Case Keenum against the Vikings. So, listen.
Minnesota doesn't have Thielen. Not sure what happened. I guess the weather was a factor, but I was really surprised that Keenum only threw once to McLaurin. Like that guy, he's been like his main target all season.
It was like a 6-foot deep puddle in the middle of the field.
So then there was just nothing happening, right? Okay.
You couldn't throw it all in that one. That was Nick Bosa at the end of the game sacks Keenum and then does like a slip and slide dive across the field and probably goes about 15 yards just on his belly.
All right, we got Seattle at Atlanta. Seattle is -3.5 there. I did like the Ravens last week against Seattle. I thought that was a weird line. I thought Seattle, why are they only 3? And you saw the reason why. A strange team this year. I think Seattle is better than 22 teams or 23 teams in the NFL. You would think Atlanta's completely done after seeing what you saw last week. But, man, the line's short, only 3.5. Makes me worried a little bit. Like, is Atlanta just going to show up all of a sudden for this game? Maybe.
I said 3.5.
Yeah.
Really? That went down then. That went down a lot from where I'm looking.
Yeah. Seattle's -3.5. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yep. Philly at Buffalo. You mentioned the Chargers, Bears. There's no way we're picking this game, right? Come on. Who could predict these two teams? Chargers are a complete disaster. Bears offense is just dreadful. I would think another under maybe here. Bears got to go back to running the ball a little bit. What in the world was that last week? 7 rushes?
Dude, I have no idea. And that's like, you want to talk about a team that you want no part of because you just don't know what's going on with their offense. I have no idea what Matt Nagy's doing. I have no clue what Nagy's doing.
None.
I mean, David Montgomery, you draft a guy like David Montgomery and then you don't give him the ball ever.
He doesn't look good.
He was looking good, though. Like, that's the thing is that if you watched him run a couple of games ago, back-to-back games, he looked good.
I don't think so.
Well, all right.
My opinion. Giants, Lions. Lions are laying 7 points. Look, Giants haven't been able to stop anybody on the ground, as we saw last week, but the Lions are going to have a new running back, Ty Johnson. I know nothing about Ty Johnson other than that he's the starter going into this week. So, Marvin Jones coming off that huge game. Giants probably start a tailspin at this point, but I expect the Lions to do the same. I'm not a big believer in them either. So certainly a tougher one. Jets at the Jaguars. Jaguars are feeling good about themselves after what happened to the Jets. What Jets in the world are we going to get this Sunday? I mean, My guess is the Jets are the right pick here. My guess is the Jets, coming off the worst game possible, are going to have a good game at Jacksonville. No one will take the Jets after that last week.
I want that line to go up to 7.5.
But my guess is the Jets are the pick. Cincinnati at the Rams. The Rams are minus 13 in this one. I mean, Bengals have a knack for covering these lines, these big lines. I by the way, I don't buy anything that I saw after the Rams beat the Falcons last week. I don't have any extra confidence in them. Arizona at New Orleans is interesting for me. I may like the dog in this game this week. Arizona, Howard, against New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good spot for the road team. The Saints have proven everything they possibly can. They've won every big game, every small game with Teddy Bridgewater. Are you telling me they're going to have no letdowns? They're going to win every game without Drew Brees?
No, I mean, Arizona's just. I mean, listen,
they're playing much better. They're playing much better.
We're talking about the spread here, and that's the thing. So, I mean, I'm looking at it at 8.5 right now.
That feels like a lot.
It does feel like a lot, and that for that aspect, I mean, yeah, I would consider taking Arizona in this one, but I don't see Arizona being like, walking in and winning this one outright.
No, but you never know. Tampa Bay, Tennessee. You got a coin for Tampa Bay, Tennessee, or no?
Tampa Bay, Tennessee. It's Tampa Bay, dude. It's Tampa Bay. Give me the 2.5 points.
Winston.
Denver
at Indianapolis.
Tannehill. You're gonna let your Miami?
I don't like Tennessee either. Look, Tennessee at some point is going to win like 4 or 5 in a row, go into the last week, have a chance at the playoffs, right? That's coming. Denver at Indianapolis. The Colts are minus 6. Colts looked fantastic last week, by the way, against Houston. And Denver, they got 10 days, but it doesn't matter. Carolina at San Francisco. San Francisco's 5.5. We discussed that briefly. The Raiders at Houston. Kind of feeling the Raiders, honestly, again this week. But
are you? Are you?
A little bit, yeah.
Are you? So I think I have a voicemail here that says, I'm never taking the Raiders ever again.
I know, but I see 6.5 points against Houston. How is Houston a bigger favorite against the Raiders than the Packers? Care to explain that one?
I mean, again, it was the situation when you're looking at what Houston's been doing the last couple of games versus what Green Bay had been doing over.
How did Houston look this last week?
How did Houston? They looked okay. They looked fine. I mean, they lost to Indianapolis. It wasn't. Indy's a great team.
Do you think Houston's better than Green Bay?
No, probably not.
You think they're the same?
They're close. I think they're closer than you think.
Okay, that's fine. But then why is Houston a bigger favorite over Oakland than Green Bay?
I don't know.
That's a reaction just to that game Sunday. Browns at the Patriots. I'm never. Forget it. And Packers.
13 points. 13. It's not even 2 scores.
Taking Cleveland. We're gonna go against Patriots. No.
I'm taking the Patriots.
Yeah, probably. Packers at the Chiefs. Green Bay minus 4.5. Wow, it's Green Bay minus 4.5. Like the Mahomes factor is that's like a 7-point swing. And then Monday night we're definitely taking Miami, right, at Pittsburgh.
Oh, have to, right?
Getting 14.5. Come on.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, we're gonna take.
Fine with that. I love it. The Fitzmagic. It's so great.
I don't think he's great, but Miami's fought a little over the last couple of games. So
yeah, against who though? Against who?
Buffalo.
Right, and
what's wrong with Buffalo
and Washington?
No, Washington was.
Buffalo's a divisional game, and those teams see each other all the time.
It's true. All right, in college, let me go over a couple of the big games before we get out of here. This week, we don't have too many ranked opponents playing each other. Auburn LSU is the big game at 3:30. By the way, they announced Alabama LSU in 2 weeks, a 3:30 Eastern game, not a night game. I don't know why they did it, but it's an afternoon game. You could have got the biggest ratings of all time on a Saturday night. They chose an afternoon game. Either way, Auburn LSU is the big one. This is an elimination game for Auburn. They lose, they have no chance at the playoff. If they win, it puts them back in the conversation. LSU is 11.5-point favorites in this one. Wow, that is incredible. Also, Alabama plays against Arkansas without Tua. They are 32.5-point favorites without him playing this week. What happens if he was with him? What would the line be? 40? Notre Dame is at Clemson. Notre Dame has these dreams of getting into the playoff. We know they're not there. Michigan coming off the loss, although they did play pretty well at Penn State. No line on this game. About a point, it looks like, Michigan being a 1-point favorite. A game to keep an eye on this week is Utah's starting quarterback is questionable for the game this week. They're a big favorite over Cal. Cal did not play well last week against Oregon State, which was a surprise. The Bears had got off to a good start. Now all of a sudden they're 4-3. We know how good Utah's defense is, but they are going to need to have some good quarterback production to cover this line. That's a big one, 21 points. So, we'll certainly keep an eye on that. Friday night's game is USC at Colorado. Colorado's not good. USC is 13.5-point favorites. And then SMU is having this magical season. They're 7-0, ranked 16th in the country, but they go to Houston this week, of course, a team that had their quarterback decide to sit out the season.
Right.
They've sort of rallied a little bit without him, but they're still 3-4 on the season. But SMU is laying 14 points in this game, and that more or less wraps up.
Is that too much for you? Because, listen, if we want to get these picks in for the Golden Nugget, we would have to end up getting them in early on Thursday as opposed to the usual Friday deadline here.
SMU was beat Temple by 45. Listen to SMU's point totals this season, Howard. Tell me this isn't impressive. 45. I'll go from most recent to all the way back.
Okay.
Against Temple, 45. Huh? Against Tulsa, 43. South Florida, 48. TCU, 41. Texas State, 47. North Texas, 47. Arkansas State, 37. Pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. How many points have they given up in each game?
A lot. Quite a few. Temple, 21. Tulsa, 37. USF, 21. TCU, that was a big win for them. They came back and won that one, 38. They won 41-38. Texas State, 17. North Texas, 27. They beat Arkansas State on the road, 37-30. Look, SMU is not the kind of team, even if they go undefeated because of the conference that they play in. It's unfortunate they're not part of the Power Five, so they're not going to get to play in the playoff regardless, even if they finish just outside. My guess is if they win every game the rest of the season, they'll get to play on a New Year's Day bowl game of some kind. They'll get to play. I wonder what I'd have to figure out where they would end up putting them. Maybe
the Hooters Chicken Wing Bowl,
Fiesta Bowl sounds right. I think they would play in the Fiesta Bowl.
The John Deere Lawn Care.
But they'd have to go undefeated. So
the Mrs. Fields Cookie Bowl.
There's like 40 bowls again this year. I'm looking forward to our bowl preview. Remember we did that last year? That's coming in a month from now.
Loving it. Where we can talk about teams like Louisiana Lafayette. And Buffalo.
Talk about a team that we have to know. We didn't know. You gotta know. Gotta know every team.
Give it to me, baby. Bam.
Is it not good enough that we know about Liberty? Is it not good enough?
Liberty. Coming at me with Liberty.
Let me explain something to you. College football, I follow it as closely as anybody does. But if you want me to break down Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Michigan State, I mean, that's 5, okay? Like, just getting the Michigan teams is a lot for me, it's tough to get
Tennessee's
every single
got quite
team.
A few also.
Tennessee.
What
do they got? Tennessee State.
Middle Tennessee State. Right. It's like a Knoxville, I think.
Where's Vanderbilt?
Vanderbilt's in Tennessee.
That's another one. Wait till college basketball season, Howard. That'll be real. Then you got East Tennessee State, West Tennessee State. So anyway, that's what we got for tonight. But we'll be back on Friday night. I got no Maroon 5 for me. Got the rejection. So same time, same place. Look forward to it.
Same time, same place. Enjoy the World Series, Craig. Anybody out there going to watch the World Series? Enjoy that too. Big thanks to our producer, Matt Sells. That's going to do it for the Wager Alarm live stream. I'm Howard Bender for Craig Mish. We'll catch you next time.